Hi everyone and welcome back. So because I have friends who are friends, God love them, but anyway, so they've decided to challenge me to use this die. So this is the stacked squares. There's a stacked square stencil, and I think there's one more, can't remember. Make a shaker. So what I'm thinking of doing is embossing this on a piece of cardstock, like in the dry embossing, which means you have to, so I don't know whether I will just go one way that way and then that way, because then what we'll have is this cut out with the shaker. So to do that, you need I've got a big shop. I've also got a cutterbug, but I've got a big shop. So we're going to, I think the plates are the A plate, the B plate, and this, and then like that, and then the other plate. That's from memory, don't quote me. And then what I'll do is I'll jump over to a voiceover and I will confirm with you whether that's what I did or not. So that's what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking maybe grey and this colour. So we'll see how we go. Okay. So it was correct that I needed, with the cutterbug you need the A plate, 2 Bs and the rubber mat. With the Big Shot you need to have your folders open for a embossing folder, and then add the rubber mat in as well. So I've dry embossed that, which just, as I said, it embosses it rather than cuts. And we're going to lay that down on a piece of A6 card. A6 card base. So I've die cut the frame out of quite a few. I've die cut it out about four times, I think it was, plus the paper. The paper is from Kaisercraft Fallen Leaves, and I've temporarily adhered that down, and we're going to just inlay all these little brown pieces of paper from Fallen Leaves. So I'm going to cut very shortly, but that just gives me the placing to put it all down properly, and we're just going to piece those in. So what I'm actually going to do is one of the die cuts for the squared leaves, I'm going to apply some foam melt, and you'll see that shortly. Then with the other die cuts that I have, I actually put them all together, except I will between the first and the second die cut, I'll put a piece of acetate, and what I do is I'll trim that around. I've drawn around it with the die cut, and then I've trimmed it out by hand. And then we'll lay that in between the top and the second layer of die cut. Normally I would do a double layer of the foam, but it's really, really fiddly. So I just thought this might be an easy way to do it. So yeah, there you could see that I have I've drawn around the die cut to cut it out by hand, because I didn't want it obviously to cut out all the middle bits. So this is going to form our bottom layer, and because it was really fiddly, I did have some places where you could see the foam, so I'm going to use my C7 Copic marker, and we're going to just colour in that grey. And in the end you actually don't see it much at all. I couldn't tell you that I can see it either way. So we're using this sequin mix from Uniquely Creative. It's called Tropical Tropical Sea, I think it is. And it's really pretty greens. I'm not putting it in every single little square, and some of them only have a little tiny bit either way. Get that bit out of there. So now, because I've laid up all the other die cuts on top of each other, we're going to put a little bit of glue around the edge of this one and then lay it on top and put something heavy on it while it sets. So this is just like glossy accents in a really fine bottle, that sort of thing. That's basically what it is. So nothing, you've got to be super careful because it is, as I said before, it is really thin. You don't want a lot of glue oozing out onto your acetate. And we just pop that on there. So it's a plain sort of card, but it's, you know, it's complex because of all the extra die cutting. And if you had the foam that Leslie has, this of course is a card for Leslie from Little Bits, you could just cut that out and put that underneath the die cut, and that will give you your extra dimension. I haven't had an awful lot of luck with cutting foam tape really small, so that might be another option, but I don't have any here at the moment. So we're going to use a bit of walnut stain around the edges, and what I end up actually doing is just going over the whole lot because I just decided it just needs something. So we're going to give it a bit of a grunge sort of look, I suppose. Well, last week's card was pretty clean. This one's going to go back to the grunge. So I've got a piece of grey cardstock with wet embossed with the white embossing powder, and I just didn't like it. So we're going to go back to my old favourite of the Alton New Birthday Greetings, and we're going to stamp that in Hickory Smoke, I think it was. And we're going to stamp it out a couple of times, make sure it's nice and juicy and wet, and then we're going to clear emboss it. It's because it's a hybrid between a pigment and a dye. You can do it. You have to be quick, but you can do it. I've done it quite a few times just to blend it in with the rest of the card. And I think even with dye, with dye, you might be able to do it, but I haven't really honestly played around with it too much, so I can't tell you that it's definitely going to work. So we've trimmed that down, and I'll go back through with some walnut stain, and I think that's going to be what I'm going to use. So I'll raise this up with a bit of foam mount, and that's pretty much going to be it for our card. So I've got a couple more other ideas for my men's series. This card, as I said, is for Leslie at Little Bits, and her information will be linked down below. And there'll also be a link over to my blog where you can see close-up photos of the card that should show you a bit more of the dry embossing with the die cut. And you can easily contact Leslie for any of your needs with making this card. There's not an awful lot going into it, just the grey cardstock, the stacked squares, and the Alton New Birthday Greetings. So I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. Bye.